Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Now at the end of every video, I ask if you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel. Just drop a note in the comments. And I always say, and I read them all. So, I'm not surprised when I get questions and suggestions for videos, because that's really how I get video ideas. That's where I get them from, mostly you guys. Well, this gentleman asked if I could make a video about soldering gas tanks. And I explained it to him in this way. Back when I was about 17, I had been working on go-karts and motorcycles and lawnmowers and various and sundry things in the neighborhood for people for years. I mean, since I was about 14, I started doing the welding and patching and repairing. As I got older and more proficient, I took on bigger tasks. Well, I was out working in Dad's shop, and a couple of guys came into the yard carrying a gas tank. And they walked up and said that it had a couple of holes in it and asked if I could braze them shut. Well, I had fixed a lot of gas tanks over the years, and you know, you want to have a gas tank for your mini bike, and you have to end up basically taking another tank and converting it into a gas tank. So you drill holes in it, solder fittings on it, and do all kinds of things. And then as time goes on, you modify it and change it and do other stuff. I had fixed a couple of motorcycle tanks for my own motorcycles, and I knew the risk. Motorcycle tanks are very stiff. They're quite sturdy. And the ones that I was putting on go-karts and mini bikes were pretty much the same thing. They were a chunk of pipe, very solid. A gas tank out of a car or a gas can is a fairly flimsy piece of sheet metal. So anyways, they had this gas tank with 2 holes in it and wanted to know if I could braze the holes shut. And I told them, it's too big. I don't want to risk it. It's 30-gallon gas tanks out of a station wagon. One of those great big ones that used to sit inside the fender. And they were just huge. And I thought, this too big to clean out effectively, because what I would do is I'd wash out the inside of the tank with soap and water, and then flash off the tank, fill it full of water almost completely, as much as I could, and then run a flame over the open spout, and it would pop and burn off the excess gas. Well, you'd still get a flash every once in a while through the tank, but it wouldn't be a big explosion. It'd just be pop. But I didn't really want to do a 30-gallon gas tank. And also it was an awkward shape. The fill neck was on the top of the tank, but the tank is tall and narrow. It went inside the fender. So the fill wasn't it wasn't at the top of the tank when you laid it down to get to the holes in the side of the tank. It was slightly below the top of the tank. So I said, no, I can't do it. Well, they looked so sad. And they said they didn't have the money to get another gas tank. This was, well, it would have been 1968. Things were hard. You know, there was a war on, and times were tough. So I said, okay, we'll try it. So I put it on a set of sawhorses and filled it up with soapy water and sloshed it around and rinsed it out best we could, and tried everything I could think of to get any residual gas out of the inside of the tank. But gasoline's kind of funny. Gasoline will actually weep into a hole that water won't. Gasoline is thinner than water. So the welded seams on a gas tank or any cracks or pits in the metal itself, the fuel will go down into that. And since it's lighter than water, when you fill the tank with water, it will be floating out of those cracks. Not completely, but it'll float out of the cracks and form a film on top of the tank, on top of the water. That film vaporizes and is flammable. I mean, that's why a car runs, is because the gasoline vaporizes inside the cylinder, and when you touch it with a spark, it explodes and drives that cylinder down enough to move that 4-ton pickup truck that you like to drive around in at ridiculous speeds. Gasoline has a lot of power. But we washed it out, did the best that I thought I could do to get everything out of it. Then I filled the tank full of water. Now the thinking behind that is, okay, if you fill it full of water, there's only a small area left inside, and there can't be a lot of fumes. Well, what you're doing is generating a small pocket that has no place for the gas to escape from. Yeah, I learned this lesson the hard way, as you'll see. So, with the gas tank filled up to the point where water was running out of the holes, as soon as the water stopped running out of the holes, I took the oxyacetylene torch and started heating the tank up enough to braise it. Just about the point where it got hot enough to melt the brass, it made a god-awful big thump. It wasn't a boom, it was a thump. Water shot out of the neck of the gas tank halfway across the yard like a fire hose. You know, fill on the old tanks used to be about 2 inches in diameter, and it was a solid stream of gas. It was a solid stream of water coming out of the tank. All that pressure inside the tank pushed down on the water and shoved it out. Well, that scared the crap out of me. The tank didn't split or explode, and it could have just as easily turned into shrapnel and cut me to shreds. But it already had the boom. Fire had happened. We burned off all the stuff. So being 17 and convinced that I would live forever, I tried again. I was successful. I brazed the hole shut. And they held. The water leaked out of them after that, and we were able to pour the water out of the tank. And while the tank was draining, I was talking to them. I said, "How did you get holes in the gas tank up near the top?" And they said, while they were blinking at me with bright red faces, "Well, the straps on the gas tank broke, and we're reaching up inside with the arc welder trying to weld the straps back in place, and we hit the tank a couple of times." Okay. Everybody makes mistakes. I just had. But they also went on to say that because the area was so small, they couldn't wear the welding helmet up inside there, so they welded without the welding helmet. They just looked at the arc. Now, I have cataracts. It's one of the things that happens when you're a welder in a production environment and you get a lot of flashes over the years. Each little flash from that arc is a really strong burst of ultraviolet light. Also infrared and every range of light in the spectrum. So that focuses on the back of your eye through the lens of your eyeball and burns a spot on the back of your eye. And that's a black spot that you can see on the back of my retina. But it also causes damage to the lens. It'll make a little bubble in it. Cataract. Over time, I've had enough of those that now my right eye is just a little bit weaker than my left, but there's nothing to fix it because the lens has got enough damage to it that it's there's spots in it that are fuzzy. So sometimes I have to kind of move my head around to see something up close. So these guys, and like I said, that was 1968. That was a long time ago. They were maybe 10 years older than me, 20s, and 27, 28, maybe 30. And I'm sure that they had problems with their eyes in their later years, if not earlier than that. So if they were unaware enough to try welding the strap next to a gas tank that they hadn't washed out, they struck a couple of arcs on it. It didn't blow up. They were lucky, very lucky. Could have just, their head was up inside the fender with a gas tank filled with gas fumes. I imagine they drained the gasoline out of it, but it still was full of fumes. And if it had gone, there'd have been nothing left of their heads. Just gone. And I let them drag their problem to me and make it mine. So, having said that, there are a great many of you who are upstanding, smart, careful people. And I'm glad. But there's also a few of you who watch these videos that would stick your head up inside of a fender well next to a gas tank and try and arc weld the straps just because you don't know any better and you don't think it through. So do I want to encourage people to do that? No, I've been lucky. I'm still sitting here. I'm still talking. Everything's still fine with me. But it could just as easily have been me dead at 17 and a one-line obituary in the local paper talking about the explosion that killed a young man. I don't want to be encouraging anybody to do that. So no, I'm not going to show you how to solder a gas tank, because then it would be my fault if you died. And if you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. I read them all. And I answer them if I can. Sometimes it's not the answer you want, but hopefully it's the answer that works for both of us. Thanks for watching.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.